from that because it was so not good for me. And I think at this point, I have so much incoming from other people in my life that are pulling me in to what's going on, that are overly like posting on Facebook pages and all over the place, wanting to go out and protest and do all these things. And they're kind of that is that sucking me in is what I'm trying to like push it back against. So I've overcompensated, and now I don't pay attention to almost anything. I barely follow what's going on because I it's just too much overload. And I was like that already for 4 years where I think I was alienating people with my insanity. I mean, I was really upset during that time. And I think this time, as upset as I am about certain things, I just won't allow myself to get to that place again because it over dominates. It's like you're saying, Deborah, like it just dominates everything where you could be putting energy into something else or other things that are more, that feed you more, feed your soul more, feed a sense of, contentness or well-being back into your world. Whereas this stuff doesn't for me. It doesn't do it. It's quite the opposite. So I think
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
Well, it is Monday, July 14th. It is Bastille Day. Happy Bastille Day to you guys. Uh, and we were just having a conversation that we went live kind of midstream, so I know that drives some people crazy, but we were talking about how how common it is for us now to end up spending too much time on our devices, too much time like information seeking. This whole concept, I like the word infotainment, which is really what we've ended up doing, right? Like you're entertaining yourself by gathering information constantly online. And it can become kind of compulsive. And Christine was just talking about some of her own experiences with the Biden administration and that, watching that train wreck unfold. So, yeah. Deborah, before we get into conversation, you want to introduce people to Solid Ground?
Sure. And I have a side note I want to make on the topic we were just talking about. Okay. Solid Ground is a peer support community for anyone concerned about the imposition of critical social justice and or authoritarian measures such as medical mandates in their workplace, university, children's schools, or community. We offer weekly online peer support groups in which members share ideas, thoughts, and support for how to navigate the impact of these ideologies and answer the question, where do we go from here? You can join one of our peer support groups for $10 a month, and you can join our forum discussions on locals for $5 a month. To find out more, to join our Solid Ground Substack for the peer support groups and Solid Ground Locals for the forum. Please note that Solid Ground does not provide psychotherapy or legal advice, and nothing we do should be construed as such. I also want to say that Leslie's birthday is Thursday. Is that correct?
Oh,
Yes, it's correct.
happy early
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I'm hosting my group on Thursday, so I don't know if I'll show up wearing a birthday
Nice.
hat or not, but I just might if I
Yes.
have one around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Jay Adams, thank you for the haircut compliment. That's very nice. And yeah, so I think this is it's such a timely topic that you were talking about when we opened up, Christine and Deborah. Do you want to go back into that? You started talking before we went live about some of the issues that with screen addiction
Yeah.
or just compulsive behavior with social media.
Yeah, I want to say that. But before I want to say that, because it kind of goes on, along with this thing, I'm just watching what's happening with social media. Maybe it's a side topic, but I just feel compelled to say it. I'm just watching a lot more, as much as we say, speech isn't violence, but it is interesting how much violent talk and posts I'm seeing online. I just want to give one example because it shocked me. It was someone I knew when I used to live back in Colorado, posting with her child, the baby, who has red stuff all over their face and hands. Maybe it was raspberry juice. And the mother's put a caption on it about how she wants to disengorge, the baby wants to disengorge ICE and and Republicans or something.
Wow.
And I'm like, this person put their baby picture up with this violent caption and the baby's got red all. I thought and I know this woman. I'm like, wow. Anyway, it is a bit of a side thing, but I'm just sort of shocked about the emotional content of what's going on online. Then there's also the addictive part of why am I looking at this and spending all this time? But I'm seeing more people that I know, friends like on the left, I don't follow so many people on the right,
Mm-hmm.
have a book really saying extremely, they're not going to go do anything, but like these things that are just shocking to me, especially using your child in the middle of it. So anyway, that's a bit of on the
Well, that's a
side, but
that just enlarges the topic a bit. It's content and process. It's not just like we're on it too much. It's also what is it doing to us and what are we doing with it?
yeah, yeah. So we were talking about this in our solid ground group last night. It came up about getting a little more meta about, instead of being like, this thing just happened, is this true? Oh my God, I got to find out the next thing, starting to just question like one's own behavior with, being on these technologies. So people share different things. I mean, I admit, I think I've really harmed my attention span I'm on Twitter or X a lot. It's harder to read. I have a book now, and I'm having a hard time reading a book, which is embarrassing. I often go around with listening to podcasts like all day, and some of it is to
Mm-hmm.
be informed. Some of it I recognize. I live by myself. I don't know a lot of people where I live, and I'm so lonely. Like it just feels like I always have somebody with me, And I used to, when I first moved to New York, I loved walking around and like looking at buildings and noticing little details. I'd post it and people go, oh, you have such interesting attention and what you, and now I don't see anything because I'm with other people in my head. I made myself go for a walk the other day and I'm like, you can't put the headphones on, and I'm kind of having a bit of like withdrawal, like, um, that and I was trying to force myself to look at things, and it took a lot of effort.
Yeah,
So,
boredom is really hard. Boredom is a terrible feeling. And
I don't even know if I
like
feel bored. I feel lonely. I think it feels
lonely.
lonely more than bored, but
I
maybe
was
it's,
thinking about how when I was a kid, I sit at bus stops. I took the metro bus around the city where I lived all the time. I just discovered that I could do that, and it gave me this amazing access to freedom as a teenager. And, I'd have to have a book with me or a magazine or something to look through, or I would sit there and just look at people or think or whatever. And the other people would kind of do the same thing. Like some people might be reading, some people might just be sitting there waiting for the bus, looking around. And now every time you drive past a bus stop, it's just phones. You just see everybody on phones and in lines waiting, everybody's on a phone. And there's some, I wonder how much does that change us? The ability to alleviate any of that dead space or quiet space or boredom or loneliness or contemplative space. It's just, you can eliminate that discomfort of that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree because like I was saying in the beginning, that's how I felt that I was behaving for the last 4 years or so, where I wanted it because letting my mind run free with whatever thoughts might come in was so much more uncomfortable for me than being able to have myself occupied. But I was also so immersed because I felt that every single decision that was going to be made was going to impact me or my family or my career in some aspect. So I needed to be on top of it all the time. This chronic kind of desire that was very obsessive to need to be ahead of the news all the time. And now that I'm watching other people in my life do this and how intrusive it feels to me to be the recipient of it,
mm,
I have a whole new perspective about what that did, how much worse it made things for me, and it didn't help the situation. I still made the same decisions. I still had the same outcomes of those decisions were still the same. It didn't change anything. It just kept me on some strange adrenaline high alert where I couldn't sleep for a few years. And now I'm
Oh
kind
my
of
gosh.
crashing, if that makes sense. I'm just
It
absolutely,
does. It makes total sense. I think what's happening when we look at, the news and social media that for that amount of time, it throws people into a state of chronic hyperarousal and hypervigilance. And basically
exactly.
it's not just a mental experience, it's a whole physiological experience where your central nervous system has essentially been hijacked by anxiety
100%.
producing information. And then there's this sort of illusion that, well, if I just stay ahead of it, I can somehow defend myself. Like, that's keeping me safe to know this. I have to know this. Um, Whereas really, I can't really think of too many things that I've done as a result of what I've read that have then protected me in any way. But I think there's that
Exactly.
idea that develops, and I see some people now who are just in that state of extreme hyperarousal almost all the time, and what that's doing to them. And I just don't think that neurologically we were ever created to have access 24/7 to every single incident in the world. I don't think our
That's right.
brains are meant to process that.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this in a different context a while back, probably on this live stream, but there was an episode of Hidden Brain, which is some NPR show where they
Yeah.
do deep dives on different topics several years ago, where the guest was a guy who had done a study on the movement of children in this small town in, I think, the 70s, and then again in like the 90s, something like that, maybe the early 2000s. So I might be getting the dates wrong, but it was basically like he studied the movement of a bunch of the children of the town in a pre-internet time, and then he came back and studied it a little bit later. And I don't know if internet was really the culprit, maybe it was TV, but there was this dramatic reduction in the distance that kids would go and the amount of unsupervised time kids had between those two periods of time. And they were basically like the generation that would have been the children of that first set of kids, was what he was looking at, if that makes sense. I'm maybe not articulating that structure very well, but when asked about why the kids' movement had been so diminished, this researcher theorized that with the way that we consume news now, we are always aware of threats to a greater degree than we were before. And so parents became more hypervigilant, more threat sensitive, and more protective of their kids because they're hearing about every kidnapping, every murder, every whatever, not just in their small town, but everywhere, because of the way that we get the nightly news pumped in. At the time, it was probably just the nightly news, let alone your feed, which shows you every horror imaginable all the time. And so there was this, just with the higher access to scary news, you saw the bubble wrap come out for these kids. And that state of hypervigilance, like if you're hearing about threats, you need to keep hearing about them so that you know where they are, so that you know what to do. And that's how it feels. It feels like you need to keep acquiring that information and keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about when the big beautiful bill, whatever, passed, like someone in my family like immediately sent me something from New York Times, like how to plan now. And I wasn't sure. I guess there was some ways it might impact me. There were things I was like, I don't know, this might get taken away. I don't know. Like, what, I don't even know if there's anything I can do, And I guess sometimes there are things where maybe one could take some action, but that was just not on my mind, really. Like, and I don't want to say not to be informed on some level when there are some things that you could take, not put your head in the sand either, right? But it was like within seconds, practically, like, here were the tips, And I was just kind of like, let me have a moment.
Yeah. This is Mrs. says, so many disturbing faces and words as soon as I get online. I feel like I'm absorbing it. Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like drinking poison and then wondering, why do I feel so sick? Why am I so anxious? Well, you've just read about every bad thing that's happened, within the last 24 hours, and a lot of speculation about all the terrible things that are going to happen. What kind of mood do you suppose you're going to be in? You're going to feel absolutely ghastly. And I think that, because there's the whole, there's the algorithm and there's wanting the clicks. The the news is presented in such a way deliberately that it creates a sense of urgency, I think. And so that's why you have people saying, we've got to leave the country. We have to leave. We have to leave now. We have to move to Canada. We have to do this. We have to do that. And really, I think I'm not saying people should have no concerns, but I think disproportionately concerned.
It's interesting algorithm that thing. I got off of Facebook years ago, 2017. I got off, and I felt instantly so much better about life. Um, I have a Facebook account that has no friends at all because I only have it to use it for Messenger for my husband's family chat thread that we have. So I see people sometimes find me and try to friend request me, and I don't use it at all. I have no friends, and I never will because I don't have any interest in being back on Facebook. Um, I do use Instagram. So my two social media sources right now, well, I mean, I upload to YouTube, but I don't watch YouTube, um, are really Instagram and Twitter, X. And Instagram, I just don't trust it at all. I'm still on there, well, not that you should trust any of them, right? But it seems very shady to me. I'm on there because I like photography and I have a bunch of friends that and family that use it, so we can look at stuff. It On the benign side of mistrust, it sells me stuff constantly. So it's more ads than than seeing my friends and family. I feel like I see more ads than my actual content that I'm trying to look for. But on the creepy side, like for a while, my search was just full of pottery because that's what I had been using it to search. I was new to making pottery, and I would look up different techniques and different tips and tricks and how did somebody handle this or how did somebody do this. And so when I would go to the search portion, it would automatically populate with a bunch of what it thought I wanted to look for. But recently, I recently went to the search thing, and it's full of basically weird body horror stuff. I mean, it's so strange what it prompts you with. It's like these AI videos of people metamorphosizing, and I don't know even how to describe it, but it's quite gross. And there'll be like softcore porn or breasts and things like that in it, and I just think, what is this weird thing trying to do to me? And if I were a man and had clicked on pretty girls in the past or whatever, would it just be prompting me with tons and tons of pornography? Because what it's doing for me is weird enough. Like I get weird plastic surgery stuff and body horror kind of. So I don't know. It's very strange what these things are doing to us. And I cannot even imagine handing my kid a phone and saying, here, you can have an Instagram account. I can't even imagine that, And yet a lot of teens are on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably most of them, that or Snapchat, all of those things. I'm so glad that didn't exist when I was a teenager. Oh my God, I think it would have made me mentally ill.
Oh yeah, me too.
I mean, it's like you
I
go
got
through
a
that phase and you're self-conscious enough. I can't imagine something making me
horrible.
more self-conscious. That would have been awful.
And AI
I think
is
it's
a weird thing.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Deborah. So,
Oh no, I mean to make the contrast about talk about like boredom or not boredom. I think I've told this story probably one of these live streams, but I'm just remembering it, which was like I grew up in kind of a rural area. There weren't other kids to play with except my sister. We had different interests. So in the summer especially, I either read or one of our big highlights was to go out to the road, like almost no other houses, and like the tar would get hot and make bubbles. And so we would get a stick and we would, like Poppy, we would poke the bubbles. And like that was like a big fun thing to go out and poke tar bubbles. Like so
that's a real
that,
childhood.
yeah, or that I had a broken leg once and I was in a cast and I had to lie. My dad would just like stick me out probably in the sun, like, and I lie in this chaise lounge. Like I remember once watching for hours it was either an ant or some bug getting another large bug, and they had somehow managed to like carry it like somewhere. And I just sat there for like very slow, just how are they going to go? What are they doing with this thing? And like when you have that time to sit there and watch some bugs move for a few hours. Like, we don't have enough of that. But now I'm on the other end of it. But I remember just, having lots of time and staring at nature and watching its slow movements.
That was my childhood too. I didn't grow up in a rural area, but I grew up in the suburbs, and I spent a lot of time outside and a lot of time running around in the woods, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I'm so grateful that I had that. And lying on my back, looking at the sky and looking at the shapes of the clouds and finding animals and objects in the clouds, all of that stuff that I feel like kids are missing now. And it just seems to me that it gives you this deeper sense of life and yourself, and this contact with something within yourself that I don't know how they're getting it if they're never in nature and they're only on screens. What happens to that part of yourself? And you never read? I don't know the answer to that.
I was thinking, as Deborah, you were describing watching the bugs, like that thing that you watched when you were a kid, just that incident, how much more memorable that is now than probably like half or 3/4, 7/8 of the stuff that you saw on X last week, probably. I mean, like that. It's interesting. You actually recorded a real memory. You learned something versus just filling your time.
All the senses involved too, right? Like I can't get up really because I've got this cast on, but then I'm like in the warm sun, and then I can even see the grass. It really made a strong sense impression.
Yeah, it's interesting. You also mentioned wearing a podcast, like putting headphones on and walking around filling your head. I feel like that's something that I do as well. It's hard to do menial chores without plugging in something that I can listen to, an audio book or a podcast or something just to keep me company. And that used to be a time when you would let your mind wander, and there would be a space for creativity that would come from that boredom.
Yes.
And now we fill up those empty spaces, and I hear that from a lot of people. It's not just me, it's not just you. It's something a lot of us are doing. Yeah.
I still do that. I would say, even if it's not I'll always have the TV on in the background, even if it's not something I'm watching, or it's not something I'm interested in watching. There's something about that noise in the background, even if I'm working on something, that it makes me feel like I'm not by myself. That's right. It kind of takes away that empty space that, for whatever reason, has been very difficult for me to sit with. So the TV's running all the time. So if it's not a podcast, because I've pulled away from that stuff, as I said earlier, now I have filled in with something else. I'm not so much more plugged into like in the moment, being present, than I was. It's just I've substituted listening to podcasts and political analysis for throwing on the Golden Girls, which was my favorite sitcom growing up, and it's in the background, and I know every single storyline, and I know what's going to happen at the end. There's some also feeling there of knowing the outcome, of having something very predictable to listen to. That's quite different from a podcast that I don't know what I'm going to get, right? I don't know what's going to agitate me. I don't know what's going to, force that feeling of I've got to take action. I've got to take some kind of, action here and create a result. That dulling, laughter in the background from those 80s sitcoms does really well for me these days.
That's interesting. Well, I also recognize that there's something ironic about being online, streaming online, and complaining about online. Like my kids and I have been driving past this sign that says it's like get Spokane offline, help get Spokane offline, engageirl.com. And so, it's funny.
That's great.
It's funny,
it's unavoidable. I think
Right.
that's why, use it in a way that's inspiring. I just look at poetry on Instagram.
Yeah.
And try to make connections with other people who are interested in poetry.
Right.
I
Yeah,
love
and you send
that.
me poetry, and I love it when you do that. But
When
yeah.
you were talking, Deborah, about looking at the bugs outside, I was reminded of that Mary Oliver poem where she talks about, I do know how to pay attention. I do know how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed. And
Ooh, idle.
that's,
Mm,
I think that's what we're missing, is that feeling of the joy of idleness that allows you to, I think you connect then sometimes through that idleness, and you realize your oneness. And if you're always tapped into different things, you don't have that experience. And so it's isolating, sort of mentally and spiritually.
On that oneness, you're reminding me too of I went on a trip to Thailand many years ago, and there was a phase of it where it was so hot, I really couldn't do anything. Like it was like too hot. I was just in the shade and just lying there for hours. I didn't even want to read. And I actually had, I want to say like I had a major spiritual experience, but I had something that was like something altered, somehow. And I think
hmm
it came hours and days of like, I didn't feel like I felt like doing anything. And I'm not advocating like endless not doing anything, but it was available. And so I'm thinking about, you're saying the creativity piece that's available if we're not filling stuff in. It's probably connections to more oneness. We're not filling all this stuff in. Um, so it kind of afford that. I think what's hard is like there's the phase where if you're in the emptiness, often the stuff you, at least for myself, I don't want to encounter. I'm afraid, I'm gonna have to deal with those feelings, or I'm gonna have to deal with something I'm avoiding or something. And it's not like necessarily a direct path to like, well, now I just had like a blissed out moment or something. Like I don't know how that happened in that moment and not my feeling awful. So that's the tricky part.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, what do you guys do in order to find balance with it? Like, Deborah? You talked about how you went on a walk the other day and told yourself you can't bring your headphones with you, so you kind of set some guidelines around that. And I know I'm really missing pottery right now. I have no access to a pottery studio at the moment. I'm thinking about making my own. It's going to be an investment, but I'm thinking about doing one at home. But when I was doing pottery, one of the things that I did was not allow myself to listen to any entertainment. Just focus on what I'm doing. Just zone into the work, and that was really good for me, I think. But what are some ways you guys do that?
it's I think I mentioned on here before, but I started learning to play golf. And I'm a terrible I'm just not any good. Let's just be realistic. I'm not any good. I take lessons anyhow. But aside from like taking lessons, being out on we belong to a very small lake club. So it's not like a full golf course. It's a small course that we belong to, and almost nobody goes. It's pretty dead. I mean, it's all in, but it's in the middle of nature. There are deer that run back there. There are snakes. There's turtles that are in the little water ponds that we've got. There's little fish there, and being out there with this like ball and this club that I so frustratingly can't hit well. But there's something about being outdoors in that nature and just focusing on this one task that I'm trying to do, which is just hit this ball. And then I got to hit it again. And then I got to try to make it into the hole. There's something about this process that, as much as it's frustrating, is actually very relaxing in many other ways for me. And I'm outdoors, and sometimes you'll see deer that are just sitting there eating and watching. There's very few people that come by, so you're by yourself a lot unless you bring people with you. And there's something about being outside in whether it's sunny, whether it's overcast, it doesn't matter, just being outdoors and having one particular thing that I'm focusing on. I'm not creating something like maybe pottery, but there's some focus that I'm using my mind and my body to kind of plug in, and that has been extremely relaxing, surprisingly. And it's funny because my husband plays and has wanted me to play for a long time, and I always thought it was like watching paint dry. But for what it really for actually experiencing it, I have to say I'm really feeling very very good about being out there. So it's something that was a surprise. So I guess my whole thing is I learned something new about myself by just taking a chance and trying something different.
Yeah, that's amazing. That sounds wonderful. You almost have me inspired to play golf. Almost.
Almost.
Almost. Jennifer,
You get
what
to wear
about
funny
you?
pants.
Yeah, I know.
You can wear funny pants and an Izod Lacoste if you're
Can you
so
wear
inclined.
plus
Oh.
fours?
Yeah, it's so fun.
Plus fours. Yeah. Jennifer, you
I'm
have
also
any
thinking
tips? Oh, Deborah, go
Oh,
ahead.
Jennifer. I did this when it was during the pandemic. I should do that again. I remember went out in the park and I put up a sign like free listening just to like talk with people. I mean, I'd like to have more people in my life that I know, but I actually went to an open studio thing this weekend. In New York City, there's a apartment complex that's all for artists. Like I think if you get in, you live there for free and you just do your art like all the time. And there's a lot of old people there. I think people don't leave till they die probably, but you can go into their apartments. And to me, this is very fun to go to this weird building. And there was only like 6 or 7 last year. There were like 10 people you could go visit their apartments. And while most of the art was political, which was driving me crazy, some of them will let you just sit down and chat with them. So I started chatting with this one lady. It was just kind of fun. It was like, in fact, at some point I was like, I think I want to go. And she was like, well, don't you want to keep talking? And I felt guilty that I left. But I don't know, there I was just engaging with these people about their art. And so I don't know where there's these opportunities. Sometimes I talk to people at cafes. I mean, some people aren't open to it, that they just chat. But to me, like finding places to people are open for conversation or striking it up in public, I'm probably gonna be a little less. I try sometimes on the subway to not have my things on, but everybody else is on the phone, and most people aren't open to conversation, but sometimes I can get something going. So
It's hard to redevelop a reading practice after you've gotten used to reading in bite-sized tidbits. It's like it's harder to do. I know a lot of people who used to read a lot who read very little now. I used to read a ton, and it was really going to college and then law school that broke my reading habit, because I just didn't have time to read for pleasure. I had to read for class. But then after that, I just, instead of picking books back up, I got in the habit of reading little articles and headlines and weird crap that comes through your social media.
I think that's what has happened to everybody. We've shortened our attention spans and our tolerance. I mean, especially if you're reading a great work of literature, there are dips in excitement in such works, and you have to stick with it to get the payoff, and the payoff is great. But it requires that tolerance and that perseverance. And I think our brains are getting wired to not be able to sustain our attention that long, which is very sad.
one book recommendation I'll make, because I get these books from the library, I start them and then I just put them down and I don't finish them, and then they go back. But I did finally get We Have Never Been Woke, which I think everybody that listens to this channel would probably want to read. By Lisa Algarby. And it's written in such a way, I actually wrote him a message on Twitter. I said, I've been not able to read for a while, and this book is so engaging. I might finish it, So
We Have Never Been Woke. Who's the author?
We Have Never Been Woke. Musa, Musa, Al-Garbi, Gharbi. He's one of the Heterodox Academy guys. He's written a lot about the problems of like DEI training, and very interesting thinker. Just short form of this is he looks at basically the professional managerial class. He calls them the symbolic capitalists, and just sees the whole game of woke primarily being, there's too many elites. People are trying to find ways to compete. They're actually not helping the people that they claim to help, that sort of thing. But he also sees there have been these cycles of awakenings, he kind of calls them, and it does seem to happen when there's too many elite. And but he does it in this very interesting. There was a book called We Have Never Been Modern, so he's riffing off of that. But he always is including himself in it. I mean, he's an academic, so he's always saying we do this. So it's an interesting way. In some ways, I'm afraid to give it to some of the people I know that are professional managerial. They might be offended, but him including himself in it. Like, we do this, we do that, we do the other thing. You know, I don't know if it'll be seem so harsh instead of saying you people are all whatever. He's like, we do this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm up to page 70. I'm so proud of myself.
That's a good recommendation.
Good job.
Do you guys have any other recommendations for books that are hard to put down? Like, what's a book you read that you loved so much that it broke through your attention span issues?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'll give
I'm
you
trying
one.
to see what books
While you
I
guys
have
think
like
about it,
mine
I'll tell you
here.
my recommendation.
Oh,
Piranesi. I think the author is Susanna Clark. And I read that book about a year and a half ago, maybe, and it's so good. It was really surprisingly creative and interesting, and I won't give you any spoilers at all. It's fiction.
What is it
I will
called
say
again?
it's a little surrealistic. Piranesi, Piranesi, I think. That would be my book recommendation.
that's me.
Yeah. Olivia Maynard says, the only fiction I ever finished and liked after, what was it, after something she said earlier, was Tommy Got His Gun. Okay, that's a recommendation.
Oh, Johnny got his gun.
Johnny? Okay. And then Jennifer Adkins says, Pavilion of Women. I go back and reread. Okay. Cool. Give me all your recommendations, guys. We all need to get to reading.
Sorry.
The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt.
Is that what it is? Your recommendation?
Mm-hmm.
The Goldfinch.
I'm rereading it. I read it years ago. I'm rereading it. It's pretty brilliant.
What's the author again?
She's brilliant. Donna Tartt, Tartt, I think. She only publishes one novel about every 10 years, and she's overdue to publish. It's driving me crazy. Just publish something. Yeah, she also wrote The Secret History, which is a really fun book about a group of college students and a murder. And then she wrote The Little Friend, which was incredibly well written, but I just didn't find the subject matter as interesting. But The Goldfinch is just really fascinating, especially if you are interested in the art world. Really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool. Later Home says, I can tell you what I want to read, the Epstein list. Yeah, we should get into
I'm
that
a little curious
bit.
about that too.
We should get into that, but I want to hear Deborah's book recommendation first.
Oh, well, no, it wasn't a book. It was a side comment. So I'll make it, and then we can decide, do we want to go down this path or go down Epstein path or whatever. But, as we talk about these things, we're talking about a lot of, whether it's doing the pottery, doing something with our body, something set, with our senses or something. And I was just disturbed listening to the All In podcast the other day where they're thinking about ways to make food so that no humans have to be involved at all. Like these just massive automated robot things. And it made me so sad. I was like, I want people making my food. I want people making food. People should be involved in food. And this was presented as this amazing innovation. I guess they said it'd make food so much cheaper. I'm thinking about where all those jobs. Anyway, that's a whole side thing. But I was just, my main concern lately is like all these things that really help bring us back into some sanity and whatever. If there's just ways that society is otherwise trying to like make them go away or something, it's like we have to fight for like, someone even was saying like, I don't want to scan a QR code to order something. I actually want a real waiter that I talk with and have an interchange with. And so it's just, many of the things we obviously can do ourselves and no one's going to take them away. But I see how the notion of progress taking away some of these things that actually are sort of core to like our humanity. But again, that's probably way less interesting than Epstein.
No, that's interesting. The restaurant thing is strange to me. Like when I was a kid, we didn't eat out really at all. I was born in the mid 70s. We did not eat out. It wasn't a thing. Every
Same.
like maybe like a couple times a year we'd either get fried chicken from Church's
Mm-hmm.
Fried Chicken,
Mm-hmm.
or my dad would pick up a pizza. You know, it was super rare. We certainly didn't take our family and sit down in restaurants and eat. And now, you know, fast forward to where we are now, it's super common. There are people who eat out more than they eat in.
Mm-hmm.
And so something has rapidly changed with that. And the idea of having a waiter take your order, the, seeming, well, maybe we're just in a state of continual evolution of that process. Like maybe that there wasn't a time to reference. What's the reference point when somebody says that? I'm sort of just thinking about the progress of these phenomena in our lives.
Yeah, we didn't go out to eat either. My mom cooked. It was something that they didn't. My parents didn't really believe in that, unless it was a very special occasion. It was very prioritized to cook at home, but also we didn't grow up having a lot of financial resources, and to take out a family of four and pay to sit down and eat versus cooking, it was a lot cheaper to cook, obviously, most of the time. Um, so that's not something I really did until I got older and was kind of had my own money and was on my own, and, became more of a social thing at that point. But I don't know what this whole, I mean, ordering with the little QR code thing, there's something about that feels very Big Brother like to me. Like, why are you tracking? Why are you like you're tracking? Like, you're getting into my phone now, because now I'm using my phone to order with the QR code. Like, what are you tracking? And now, how many like people have been exposed? Like, have access to my phone? It feels very Big Brother and weird to me. Um, I don't care for that at all, to be honest. It's just bizarre because they use your, I mean, you're using your phone. No, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that is weird. It is weird. I don't know.
I
Do you
think just
guys?
the human element, like anywhere there's human element in the name of like convenience or something, I don't know. Like, is there's like there that was to a point I could see, but now it just seems like basically humans are inconvenient, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I know. That's the thing is if we keep on trying to perfect, what is the result? I mean, we perfect away all the interesting.
I know. And how is anybody going to have a job? I went to this restaurant where not only did you pull the menu up by scanning the QR code to your phone, you ordered on your phone. And then a
yes,
very disinterested waiter appears and kind of slaps the food down. And it's almost like we do not want to interact with the customers. We want to absolutely minimize contact with them. And it to me it just sort of defeated the purpose of going out for a meal.
Do you remember during COVID when all of a sudden the waiters would have like hazmat looking garb on? Like the waiter has a mask and medical gloves. It's like
yes,
that's so gross. I feel like I'm going to a
yeah,
doctor's office to get a sandwich and I don't want to do that. That's
yes.
nasty.
I know. Yeah, I remember that. I was one of the last people. I mean, I was in a restaurant like the last day that restaurants were open. And then I was one of the first people back in when the restaurants reopened. Like I just I like going out and but the rules in the restaurants I think were hilarious when they finally reopened that you could take your mask down to eat, but if you got up to go to the bathroom you
Put it
had to put
on.
your mask back on, or if you were just sitting there and you were done eating but your companion wasn't, it was kind of understood that you would put your mask back on.
Right.
Very funny.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. There's no good segue for this, but do you guys want to talk about the Epstein list? What are your thoughts on this, Deborah?
Oh, I don't have any particular
Oh,
thoughts. But what I'm more curious about is how upset a lot of MAGA people are about this not being released, and this sort of sense of like they've trusted. I kind of sit and go like I don't actually trust Trump for anything. So it's been interesting to see people feel very disappointed, like oh no, maybe we can't trust him. Um, and I've been more like not even him, like all politicians. I'm a little bit like, do people trust anybody? So it's curious to see I mean, I feel bad if people feel upset, and if there is something terrible to know about, I think we should know about it, and justice should be served or whatever. So, but I've been more in this meta level with it, like watching other people be upset about it. And what does that do with the relationship of MAGA and Trump? That's been my angle on it.
Why with Trump in particular? Because he said he was going to make sure the list was released, or okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And his base is like, that's one of the things they counted on when they voted him back, was that he would do that. So the base is very angry. Because he's coming out now and
Oh,
saying that there is no such list, that the list is actually was a Democrat, what did he call it? I don't remember, but it was a hoax, a Democrat hoax, that they came up with, and no such list actually exists. So people are like all over the place about it. Does this list exist? Why isn't he releasing it? Is he part of it? There's a lot of this kind of, what's the conspiracy here that they're all hiding? It's just another like way, I feel like, to draw our attention away from major issues that we need to be solving to something else that's more salacious. Not that the list shouldn't be out, but that the amount of rage over that, when we still have so many other issues that are happening simultaneously, it seems like it's sort of an imbalanced,
yeah.
an over response to something else that, I mean, right? You should never believe a millionaire waving their hand outside a jet. Whoever said that? I mean, yeah, it's kind of so, and that's what Epstein was too, wasn't he? He had his own jet, his own island, whatever. I mean, I don't know. It
Mm-hmm.
just feels as though it's not as important as some of the other things that we're trying to, you know, supposedly trying to resolve.
Yeah, I think that that
I
that is
agree with
interesting.
Jay's analysis too. I do agree with that too. I will say real
This
quick.
what
Sorry to
Jay
cut you
says
off.
here.
Oh,
My
Yeah.
hypothesis
Yes.
is that there were
Yes.
unexpected
Yes.
people on the list that he needed to
Yes.
pass
To
the
pass the
bill.
bill.
Hmm.
Yes. I that is my personal belief. That is what I believe 100%. And so that's why it's like, all right, can we change our focus?
Yeah, the whole Trump thing all along has been strange to me. Both how much of a villain he's made out to be and how much of a hero he's made out to be. I just don't see. I I don't understand why people think that one politician that he's not going to follow politician form. You know, he's going to
Right.
do what's pragmatic for him, and
Right.
it's he's no hero, but he's also not Satan himself either. He's just another one
no.
of these guys,
But I
and it
think
is
things
very
got
disappointing.
so,
This Epstein thing is super disappointing.
yeah, I think things got so out of hand in 2020 that, I mean, I was really worried about the direction the country was going in, that's for sure. And I think that because Trump was critical of, wokeism and everything that went along with it, that people do glom on out of a sense of wanting to be rescued. And so I think that has evoked very strong emotions in people. And kind of, when you want to be rescued, you feel like the person who has some power and is speaking about the things you're concerned about, you do start to feel like they're a hero, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and develop unrealistic
Absolutely.
expectations.
I saw that in
Absolutely.
2016. I was because my daughter had been vaccine injured in 2009. Been sort of I'd been doing a lot of reading and researching and understanding the lay of the land with regard to the compulsory vaccination movement as it had been growing. There were more and more challenges to the vaccine exemptions that many states have for kids, medical, religious, and what's the other one? Philosophical, I guess. Um, Sorry about the noise. And so I'd been really plugged into this political awareness of the vaccine issue for a long time, and a lot of people in that community, if you want to call it a community, I think that word is overused, but whatever, loved Trump because he had made some sorts of gestures towards vaccine concern. There was speculation that his son was autistic because he was vaccine injured. He had made a couple of comments about it's just too many. You take this beautiful baby and you shoot them up with a bunch of stuff, and then they're neurologically damaged after that. So he'd said a few things that people in that sphere were really taking positively, and they thought that if he got in, he would make big changes. He would end the compulsory vaccine program, or at least require placebo testing and more transparency with what's going on behind the scenes there. And I just never believed he would. I thought he just is going to do what makes sense for him once he gets in. You'll see him switch. But it was enough for people who ordinarily wouldn't have liked a lot of things about him to vote for him. So I think that was a big part of his support in 2016 was the people who were aware of the risks of vaccines and concerned about that.
Interesting.
I like Olivia Maynard's comment. Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and Jeff Epstein are all the same person.
I didn't see that. That's funny.
I didn't see that either. That is funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. People
I
love.
think it was Olivia who made the comment back a little bit. I mean, it is this broader upset with, what do elites get away with? What can get swept under the rug? You say we're a populist movement, but do you really care about average people and the even meting out of justice? That sort of thing. So I understand the upset, especially when this has seemed like it was something, this drain the swamp idea, right? Which again, even after the first term, I was like, I don't think he's going to really do that much, But people who really kind of believe that was possible, and maybe there was by some of the firings because of Doge and things like that. That there's been some draining, I don't know, if you will. I do. I mean, I understand the disappointment. I didn't have the same expectations.
Right.
So what's going on in New York right now? I know that's another non sequitur, but you mentioned it before we started live streaming. It's been on your mind a lot.
This is one of those things that I'm having to watch myself. Even I don't know, either being non-discriminating or because I could just go into I hate Zoran, right? Like anytime I see his post, right, or something like that, and that is a little bit of my knee-jerk, reaction, and I'm trying to not stir that up or stir other people up too much because I'm I don't know, a little mistrustful. I don't want him to win. I am concerned about that. What's interesting about him, and Mark Halpern did a really good thing on this on Next Up, he's very similar to Trump in terms of leading something populist, coming from not the normal political machine process, came from sideways from somewhere into the party and somehow is elevated. I don't know if I would really call him authentic. He's definitely a guy that's willing to just mix it up with anybody, he's out on the street a lot. And so if he's just I'm chatting with the contractor, I'm chatting with the halal van guy, and he seems to be Teflon. I mean, I can't tell, Trump to some extent too, not that Trump went through way more in terms of all these legal cases after him. And so he made it through them, but it's not like he didn't go through a gauntlet. This guy hasn't gone. That's the thing. This guy hasn't gone through any gauntlet. I mean, nobody seems to be giving him hard interviews or anything, but even these accusations, his father says Islamist this, that, I just feel like it's all going to slide off him. I don't understand it, but so I watched that, and then I watched Democrats thinking, oh, is this the new model for how our party should be? That's a little concerning. So I don't know. I mean, he might win. I'm worried about that. There's 3 other people in the race, or there's probably some other random ones, but I don't know if any of them will drop out, and they kind of need to, 2 of them. He's not going to win, and they probably won't.
What are the main things that people are concerned about him?
Well, he has a trail of, and I don't know whether he's distanced himself from these things or he just doesn't say them anymore. Probably 2020 and before, it was really super woke things. Queer liberation is defund the police, or he's definitely the globalized antifada statement. He's kind of like, well, it depends on what it means. I mean, he's not really renouncing that. He's pretty much, he's socialist, like virgin. If he had his way, we would have probably free social housing. We would have like these government grocery stores that are a lot cheaper. Like he's talked about seizing the means of production, like in the past. Now,
Sorry.
yeah, right. Like he said it, right?
So
Now he's like,
dramatic.
now when but the thing is, I can't tell if he was just an algorithm spouting, like I'm supposed to say these stupid things, so I just say them because I'm in DSA. Like I don't know how much they're sincerely held, but his father is like a very strong, decolonialist professor. Basically, the West is kind of bad, and so that influence is probably in there somewhere. He got asked, does he think there should be billionaires, and he doesn't. I think but people say he's moderating. Like, I don't know what that means exactly. I'm concerned who he'd put in for like the teachers. He wants to put in someone who, like, already the school system is pretty bad, and I think it would go. He doesn't think of like the merit. He wants to get rid of the special schools that you can test into for more of that equity sort of thing. So I don't know. I mean, I'd say the economic things he's proposed are much more like leftist socialist. There are issues about whether he can do any of them, because what the mayor is allowed to do and not even allowed to do. So maybe he can't do a lot of damage. I think a lot of concern is about whether he would really have police stand down. Like he had a thing that he said he thinks domestic violence cases that, police shouldn't go in or something like that. And so that's kind of concerning. I'm concerned with all of the sort of pro-Palestine and then more pro-Hamas types of rallies and activity, that either those might not be policed in a way that's safe, or there might be more people going after people doing pro-Israel stuff. And like, I'm worried about how he might have police deployed in these circumstances. So I don't know. I mean, again, like, I can't tell if he sincerely believes all the stuff that he's been saying all these years and he's going to try to do them, or if he's really ambitious. And he might change all of his points of view, if he can move up in party politics. So I don't know.
Is he Muslim?
Is he what? Yes.
Is he Muslim?
But I don't know. Yes, but I don't know how observant. Like, I don't know if he drinks alcohol or not.
Well, I guess I'm getting more and more concerned about Islam, and this wasn't really something that was on my radar to be this concerned about until fairly recently. But it seems like if our society, our Western culture is falling apart, not knowing what it is and having nothing to define itself, it's just a sitting duck waiting for something that's stronger to come along and say, I know what it is, and take over. So, I mean,
That's right.
Read The Strange
That's right.
Death of Europe by Douglas Murray.
okay.
Also follow Sean
dovetails
McGuire.
very nicely with what you're saying, and it is, talk about a book recommendation for something that will hold your attention even if you have obliterated your brain with social media. Woo! That book
Okay.
is brilliant. Yeah, The Strange Death of Europe, Douglas
Okay.
Murray.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
There's also a guy who's come out in the last week or two on Twitter. I'd never heard him before, Sean McGuire. He's a venture capitalist, and he's just been, I don't even know if he's right. He's just saying this guy is Islamist. Now, I don't know that there's evidence of that, but he is basically making this case. We have to protect the West. I've had it with this bullshit. And like, this is someone who I think is just ripped off. I don't give a shit what I say and what people call me. I am just out there going to tell you people that we have a major problem. And so he's getting quite a lot of, he's a venture capitalist, from like probably Silicon Valley or something. And he's making quite a stir. And I think one of the things that's coming up in the race is the question is, a lot of the fear is if we attack him on all of these past things, that, like the Muslim, the Islamism, whatever, does it make him more electable? Just like when Trump gets attacked on certain things, it makes it more appealing to people who support him. And so there's some controversy here of like, should we just say that his policies are bad and have the candidates that are against him just talk about policies and how they can really help people with affordability and not go for all of these types of things that all of us are concerned about, but maybe only have people go, oh, look at, he's a victim. Look at them attack him. It's so unfair. Oh, that's just mean. It's Islamophobia, blah, blah. So I think it's tricky running against him. And who should be raising those types of concerns, whether they'll hurt or help him in the race. But I do think they're legitimate. I mean, I'm a little more worried that the decolonization thing than Islamism per se, but there is just such a West is bad thing going on, like so broadly, and so many people willing to like say it is. Whether Islam's the thing that comes in, I can't really tell if that's where his head is at necessarily, but there's definitely like capitalism is bad, this stuff is bad,
Well, and he seems to at least be symbolic of that movement, which is really
like third world, hip, let's all be communist together, like, or socialist together. This is fun.
Well,
I love people.
Yeah. This is really concerning, but perhaps that's something we can dive into a little bit more in the future.
Yeah.
What do you guys have going on this week that you're looking forward to? More golf?
I'm going to be
Christine?
a little golf, and I'll be house sitting for my sister for a couple of days with her dogs, which I love. And
Nice.
she's got a beautiful swimming pool in the backyard, so I'm sure I'll enjoy that. And yeah, that's what this week is.
That sounds nice. How about you guys, Deborah and Jen?
I'm looking forward to finishing a poem that I started writing.
Oh,
Cool.
love it.
I'd love to read it.
Yeah,
I'll
you
send
share
it
it.
to you.
I don't have anything in particular this week. I feel like, point to anything.
I'm looking forward to the weather tomorrow because it is supposed to be a high of 77, which sounds really
Oh,
nice.
that sounds nice.
That's
know.
perfect.
That is, because yesterday it was almost 100 and today it's going to be in the 90s. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to tomorrow being cool. And I hope everybody has a
Sounds
great
good.
week. We'll see you guys next Monday. Thanks
Thank
for joining
you.
us.
Bye.